Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Maximizing the Value of Your Green Building Certificate with GRESB. So it's very exciting to be able to speak to all of you today, specifically since just as we witnessed the latest developments that we're seeing in Vietnam in regards to ESG and sustainability. So Vietnam has witnessed significant strides in sustainability and environmental, social, and governance practices in recent years. As a rapidly growing economy, the country recognizes the importance of balancing economic development with environmental and social responsibility. In response to global concerns about climate change and responsible corporate practices, Vietnam has embraced sustainable initiatives across various sectors, real estate included. The government has also implemented policies to promote green energy, enhance waste management, and address environmental degradation. In the business landscape, companies are increasingly integrating ESG considerations into their strategies to attract socially conscious investors and consumers. This shift is not only driven by global trends, but also by a growing awareness among Vietnamese businesses of the long-term benefits of sustainable practices. In addition to environmental efforts, Vietnam is making strides in social and governance aspects as well. Initiatives to improve labor standards, promote diversity and inclusion, and enhance corporate governance have gained traction here. Investors are increasingly recognizing the importance of transparent and ethical business practices, pushing companies to adopt higher ESG standards. Overall, Vietnam is positioning itself as a responsible and sustainable player in the global economy, acknowledging the interconnectedness and economic growth, environmental stewardship, and social well-being. As the country continues to progress, the integration of sustainability and ESG principles is expected to play a pivotal role in shaping its future developments. So, that being said, we do have three wonderful speakers lined up today to be able to touch on really the specifics of being able to maximize your green building certificate through the GRESB assessment and seeing how that can actually be not only profitable for your company's bottom line, but also in regards to saving the planet. So a little bit about myself. My name is Trey Archer, and I am the Director for Business Development for GRESB here in Asia. And just a little bit about my background. So I was actually first introduced to ESG during my MBA studies back in 2016, where I took courses on sustainability and CSR. So after discovering this moral desire to be part of this new sustainable world, I decided to get more involved in ESG, and I reorientated my career from asset management to renewable energy, taking on the role of sales director at Information. Later, I dived deeper into the world of ESG and joined GRESB, the world leader in ESG scoring and benchmarking for real assets, by managing the company's expanding presence here in Asia. The next speaker we have is Mr. Quang Do. Quang Do is an experienced green building consultant and a regular speaker at industry events in Vietnam. His diversified background in construction and business with extensive experience in various projects enable him to successfully transform the market to a greener side. Mr. Quang Do co-founded Green Viet more than 10 years ago, and the firm now is involved in most of the flagship green projects in Vietnam from an industrial, commercial, and hospitality sectors. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Doug Snyder. Douglas Snyder is the executive director of the Vietnam Green Building Council. With over 25 years in sustainable development experience, Douglas has worked on public, institutional, industrial, educational, hospitality, health, commercial, and residential development projects around the world, including the US and Southeast Asia. Douglas was the Deputy Director of Sustainable Design for Ardor Architects, a green building expert in USAID's Vietnam Clean Energy Project, and founder of his own US green building firm. Other past project partners include the World Bank, UNDP, DFAT, and Vietnam Government Ministries. Douglas has his MS in Organizational Management. He's an SIT from the SIT Environmental Studies from the State University of New York. The first speaker that we'll have up today is going to be Doug, but before I pass the microphone to him, I just want to remind everybody that we will have a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation, around the 45-minute mark. So if you have any questions that pop in your head during one of our presentations, feel free to type that into the chat box, and we will try to address that at the end of today's session. So without further ado, Douglas, over to you.
Super. Thanks very much, Trey. So yeah, first, thanks for having me here, and I'm really glad to be part of this. I think that this webinar is a great sign of what's happening in the market, which is the confluence of investment, meaning green building. We always have been on the working closely together, but I think things are really changing now with so much ESG pressure and the potential for green property development to really satisfy those kind of that investment demand. Like you said, I've been at green building for a while. My first project was in 1995, full-time green building since 2003 in the US, and been here in Vietnam for about 12 years, and with the VGBC for the last 3. So just really happy to have a chance to share things. So now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little presentation just to give you a little exposure to what the green building councils are, because there's quite a few, and then also what a green building system is and how it kind of starts to relate to GRESB principles for real estate assessment. Okay, so there's a little delay in the, okay, here we go. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about GBCs and who they are and what they do. So there's 75 green building councils around the world currently, growing in number, but currently we have 75. And in Asia, we have the Asia Pacific Network, which has 16. And we all work as a group fairly closely, sharing information, trying to harmonize what we're doing. And all of us fall underneath the World Green Building Council. So in Vietnam, the one representative, in a sense, of the World Green Building Council is the VGBC. There's only one Green Building Council per country. So in Singapore, it's the Singapore Green Building Council, Australia, the GBCA, and here we have the VGBC. Okay, so what do we do? So the things that we do are very typical of our partner, other partner, and neighboring GBCs. So we have each GBC develops a green building system related to their country. So we developed Lotus, and we have 7 different certification systems under that for all different types of buildings. Our system also falls in line with World Green Building Council priorities. We also train the property sector, all different kinds of stakeholders in green building. We're a membership organization, so we promote our members. We actually have the only green construction product database that's available online for folks to see, and we're trying to build that up to over 1,000 products, so it's very practical. We have 6 technical advisory committees with about 60 folks giving advice, and then we also have some cooperation with ministries and policy development. So that's pretty typical. Oops, clicking the wrong button. And here are the different technical advisory committees we have. A lot of the hot topics that you've probably heard about that have popped up. So net zero carbon buildings, circularity, adaptation to climate change, which is resilience, and green finance. So specifically through green finance, we are working with ADB in doing some capacity building for green lending with banks here in Vietnam, and sustainable cities infrastructure. All right, so let's take a peek at Lotus, our particular system, just so you can kind of understand how green building systems work if you're not familiar with them. So across Southeast Asia, I even threw in LEED, but across Southeast Asia, you can see the names of the different green building councils and then the system that they have. So in Hong Kong, it's Beam, it's Greenship in Indonesia, Green Star in Australia, et cetera. I even put in LEED here from the US. Verdi is from the Philippines, and then Lotus is the system or the brand necessarily from Vietnam, from the VGBC. And then what it is an objective system. It's a national system, point-based, so that higher performing projects can get higher scoring and get more credit for that. And then we all kind of line up with the priorities of the World Green Building Council. So in a sense, we're all tied internationally. In terms of the timeline and kind of what it looks like, don't be too intimidated by the complexity of this diagram, but basically it divides into 3 stages. During the design stage, projects on the left-hand side, during the design stage, projects will submit their construction drawings, their concept drawings, or detailed drawings, and then construction documents. We'll review those and give kind of a confirmation that things look okay. If not, we'll give some feedback, and then things can be adjusted. And then a provisional certification is given based on the design. Then the project goes through construction, and when the project is basically ready for occupancy, all of the construction documents and as-built drawings are submitted to us. We review that again, give feedback, hopefully not too many adjustments are needed, and then we give a final certification. And then once a project goes into the 3rd phase, which is the operational phase, we like folks to submit their monthly energy and water data to us, and currently the certifications are good for 5 years. And then we would encourage people to go ahead and get existing building certification. These are the 3 main areas that green building covers. So climate is going to be mostly energy efficiency and renewable energy. Materials is going to be resource efficiency. And then health and well-being is because we spend so much time indoors, we need to focus on our health as well. So when it comes to Lotus and other systems too, that usually breaks out into somewhere between 5 and 7 or 8 categories. Here it's 7 for Lotus new construction. So you can see energy and water and materials. Those are going to be some of them resource-based. And then of course we have health. So these are the different categories that reflect those priorities in the World Green Building Council. And some of those also, you'll note, they actually line up well with ESG priorities. So health and well-being is going to be people. Climate change is going to be energy. Water and materials is resources. So those are all things that ESG is tied to directly. And that's how we bring in a metric to start to evaluate things. So Lotus is for folks that are also looking to align internationally with the World Green Building Council and be able to access green financing for bankable projects. We build Vietnam's construction regulations right into Lotus so that if a project meets Lotus, it automatically will also meet Vietnam construction regulations. And of course, we're based in Vietnam and we're local, so we're here to help. In the same time zone. These are the different systems we have, just to show you that we have different systems for all types of buildings. New construction, existing buildings, large developments. We have a pretty wide spread in terms of representation of where our certifications are in the different building typologies. We're not just in residential or just in industrial. We're quite broadly spread out. And then here, just to show the different rankings based on scoring and points. And then the players that are active during that certification phase, during the process of certification. So we have inspectors, we have independent auditors on the left, or assessors. And then on the right, you have the investor and the design team and the representative of the investor. So we all basically work together and share information to make sure that the certification happens. And I just wanted to take a quick look at cost just because of our topic today. So Average green building costs are actually much less increase upcharge than people imagine. A lot of times we hear people say it's 30% more, 50% more. It's definitely not the case. It's usually around 2 or 3%. Experienced teams can do it for zero increase in cost. If you go for an aggressive green building, it could be as much as 10 or 11%. So it just kind of depends on where you are, but the average is around 2%. And that includes all of the costs, equipment, consulting, fees for certification, everything. So my last couple of slides are just to take a look at two actual projects. One is this kindergarten. And you'll note that the additional cost was only 1.8%, so very modest, well within contingency fees. And then the payback was basically 7 years. A little bit more if you include the wheelchair ramps for accessibility, but basically 7 years, and has decent performance. The next project is a factory, which went for LEED Platinum and Lotus Platinum, so very high certification. Had a much more significant increase in cost, 11.8, which is probably the most you're going to expect for an increase in cost. But the payback was only 3.5 years. It was half of the payback time as the project with only 1.8% increase in cost. So this is a good example of life cycle costing where, and especially in terms of green building, where you think, I might get caught spending too much money. Well, sometimes the more money you spend, actually the faster you're going to make it back because of the better performance of the building and the savings that building will experience. So for me, that's a good illustration of the reality of things. These are some of our partners, just to give a snapshot of that. That's pretty much what I have for today. So I think that it's really important that we're making this connection between finance and green building, because it's a very real connection, especially those last two slides showing the financial advantages of it. And now we have the ESG market. So that's all I have to say for today. And I think I can hand it back to Trey and we'll let things continue.
Thank you, Doug. That was very informative. So what we're going to look at now is focusing more on GRESB. So we already learned from Doug what a green building certificate is. Maybe many of you already have a green building certificate. So now what we can see, how do we incorporate this into GRESB to make green building certificates even more profitable and even more efficient for our bottom line? But before we do that, let's get a basic understanding of what exactly GRESB is, since some of you out there may not know what GRESB is. The easiest way to describe GRESB is we are an ESG report card for real estate. So the way that any company would get this report card is really a three-step process. The first step is the validation process. So what you would do here is log into our portal, fill out the GRESB assessment, tick yes, tick no, upload supporting data for evidence. And then after you do that, we at GRESB will validate those answers, and then we give you a score. After giving you a score, we put you into a peer benchmark group so that you can compare that score to peers and competitors in the market to see exactly how you stand, not only on a global level, but also on a local level here in Vietnam as well. So if we look at this slide here, you can see that this is a snapshot of a sample report. And there's three main scores that you see in GRESB. The one at the bottom left that says participation and score, that is your total score, which is 1 out of 100, 100 being the highest. So this sample company here scored an 80, which is pretty good. Then if you look right above, you can see that you will have a star. So the highest amount of stars you can get in GRESB is 5, the lowest is 1. And you can see that this company scored a 3-star. The way that you get stars is being in a top quintile within GRESB. So if your score is in the top 20% globally, you'll get 5 green stars. If you're in the top 40% globally, 4 green stars, top 60% globally, 3 green stars, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the bottom right, you can see that this is your peer comparison or your peer benchmark group. So you can see that the sample company here, the genre that we put them into is titled Asia Diversified Core. And out of all of the different companies in GRESB that fall into this category, this sample company had the 12th highest score out of all of those. So that's why they ranked 12th in their peer benchmark group. So you can see by GRESB, not only do you get that local score with your peer benchmark group to see how you perform, but also on a global level with your star rating. So there is a timeline of GRESB. So there's a few key dates to remember. So the first day that you can actually start your assessment is April 1st. So if you are considering GRESB for this year, you still have plenty of time to be able to decide, since the window to report doesn't even start until April. After that, everybody has a 3-month window to complete their GRESB assessment, and the deadline for that is July 1st. So everybody needs to make sure to complete their assessments by July 1st. Then on October 1st, this is when everybody will get their final results back. So you'll be able to see not only how you scored, but also how you performed in your benchmark group as well. So even though the assessment doesn't start until April 1st, you can actually start preparing now. So we have all of the documents available. Everything at GRESB is transparent. It's an open book exam. There's no curveballs. And we actually have a team of partners such as GRESB that can actually help you start your journey by being able to guide you along the way. Not only to make sure that you're answering all of the questions to the best of their ability to maximize your score, but also to make sure that you submit everything by that July 1st deadline. After that, again, our partners such as GRESB can actually take your GRESB assessment, spot areas where you can improve in GRESB, help you make those changes so that you can get a higher score in GRESB the following year. So there are 3 kinds of members at GRESB. Really the main ones that we've already talked about were the participants. These are the real estate companies, REITs, or developers. So if you're one of these, you would be the ones that are actually doing the GRESB assessment, and you would be the one getting a score and getting put into a peer benchmark group. The other pillar are the partners like GRESB. We just spoke about them. And these are the consultants that will be able to help you do your GRESB assessment. Then finally, on the left, you can see that we also have our investor members as well, and they play an integral part in the entire GRESB reporting process as well. So much to what Douglas said, ESG is profitable. Green building certificates are profitable, and GRESB is profitable as well when done properly. So as you can see, currently at GRESB, we have more than 170 of the world's top investors from around the world, and they use GRESB for their ESG due diligence and management. So as you can imagine, every single one of these investors is under a lot of pressure and stress to make more sustainable investments, and GRESB has really become their go-to tool for their sustainability journey. In fact, a large portion of these investors, around actually more than 30% of these, have a GRESB mandate, meaning they will not invest in your real estate fund or company unless you do GRESB first. And we're actually seeing more and more of these investors take this approach just as sustainability is moving from a nice to have to a must have. So, what are green building certificates used in GRESB? So there's actually green building certificates play a huge role in the GRESB reporting process, and we're going to see why in the next few slides. So actually, green building certificates and other sustainability frameworks play a big part of GRESB. So actually, what we've done is we've taken all of the world's most prominent ESG frameworks, everything from TCFD to SASB to CDP to green building certificates. But we've only taken the bits and pieces of these that are most relevant to real estate and have incorporated these into our assessment. So currently, there are nearly 1,000 different sustainability reporting frameworks. So for companies that are just starting their sustainability journey, it makes it a bit difficult to decide which ones to do or which ones to follow or where to start. It's really an alphabet soup of all the different ones you can choose. But at GRESB, we've done that for you, and we provided the blueprint on what you can follow based on what's relevant and material for the real estate industry. So if you don't have time to do all of these, that's okay. You can actually tick the boxes of many of these by doing GRESB. But for the ones that you do have time to do, such as green building certificates, for example, you're actually rewarded points in GRESB for having these. So if we look at the scoring breakdown of GRESB, we can see that the GRESB assessment for asset managers is showing right here on the screen. And what you can see in the red box is that actually 10.5% of your score is derives from green building certificates, which is actually quite a big amount. So for those companies that already have a green building certificate, that already gives you a huge advantage in doing GRESB because that will award you a lot of points. Furthermore, if you incorporate some of the policies from your green building certificate, such as lowering your energy and water bills, for example, that will also give you additional points in GRESB as well. If we want to look at the GRESB assessment for developers, we can see that the percent of points coming from green building certificates is actually higher at 13%. And you'll also, again, receive more points from the policies that you've implemented from your green building certificate. So at GRESB, we accept a wide range of green building certificates, everything from the large international ones such as LEED to smaller local ones such as Lotus and everything in between. I believe currently we accept more than 50 different kinds of green building certificates, but usually the companies will choose the ones that are local to their country, such as Lotus in Vietnam, for example. And lastly, for this section, we can see how GRESB is unique. So if we want to compare GRESB to other rating agencies, we can see that some of the others, such as Dow Jones, MSCI, Sustainalytics, they only rate listed companies. But at GRESB, we're able to rate listed and non-listed companies alike. Number two, GRESB is only focused on real estate, so that allows us to provide a more accurate real estate score. And this is one of the reasons so many investors have turned to GRESB, because we're able to provide them with the most accurate real estate sustainability scores, since that's the only thing that we focus on, and that's the only factors that we rate. Three, GRESB is a full comprehensive ESG evaluation. So some of the other frameworks, such as GRI, might focus a little bit more on the G, TCFD, a little bit more on the E, but at GRESB, we're able to focus on ESG as a whole. And that is being able to tie all of the different strategies and frameworks you're doing with your sustainability strategy into one place, and then taking that and being able to score you and benchmark you so that you can see how you perform on a global and local level. So the final section we'll look at the financial benefits of GRESB. So there are lots of financial benefits to GRESB, but for the sake of time, we're just going to focus on a few of them. The first are the investors. So we already looked at that slide where we saw that we have more than 170 of the world's top investors that are currently members of GRESB. But the way that works is, especially again, as mentioned, since many of these will only make investments with companies that do GRESB, so let's do a scenario. So let's say if we have a big investor such as APG or BlackRock, and they're looking to make more investments into Vietnamese real estate. The first thing they'll do is go into the GRESB portal. They'll find all of the different managers or developers that are actively doing GRESB in Vietnam. And then from there, they can click a button to view your report. After viewing your report, they can see that you take sustainability seriously and that you're a good sustainable company. And then from there, they can click another button to connect with you. And then from there, that's how new deals are born on the GRESB portal. So again, just by doing GRESB, that will give you a competitive advantage to being able to win investments from some of these investors, or actually quite a few of the world's top investors. What we're starting to see today as well on the next slide is sustainability-linked loans. And this is something that we're actually seeing more and more companies use GRESB, or more and more banks use the GRESB assessment to issue sustainability-linked loans. A sustainability-linked loan, or SLL, is basically a discounted loan for achieving ESG KPIs. And GRESB is a great way to be able to measure and quantify those KPIs. So we just look at a few of the case studies that we have here on the slide. So Keppel Land secured a 5-year, 150 million Singapore dollars sustainability linked loan for achieving 5 stars in GRESB. Another one is Capital Land obtained a 500 million Singapore dollar SLL based on KPIs connected to their GRESB assessment. And then finally, New World Development received a 1 billion Hong Kong dollar SLL due to milestones achieved in GRESB. So you can see already that GRESB can be profitable, not only from the equity side, but also from the debt financing side as well. And then the last slide we'll look at is just looking at some of the other many benefits that we have. So specifically focusing on the financials. So GRESB can also help lower your operational costs, so your OPEX. So by lowering your energy bills, your water consumption, reducing waste, these are all things that will decrease your operational costs, which makes your company more profitable at the end of the day. Number two, in the upper right-hand corner, companies doing GRESB can reduce their climate and other risk. So a large part of GRESB is your risk assessment. Withstand the more severe weather that we're experiencing due to climate change. As we see in Asia, especially in Vietnam and other places in Southeast Asia, climate change is real, and we're seeing more and more severe weather, everything from storms to more typhoons to flooding, etc. Investors are really taking in mind that companies are doing more risk assessments before they invest in these assets because they just want to make sure that those assets will be here tomorrow. So again, risk assessments will make your company more profitable and will make sure that your assets are able to be standing to receive investments in the future. Number three is being able to paying tenants. So something that we see on the green building certificate side as well, but also at GRESB, is that tenants are starting more and more to pay premiums just to be in green buildings. So if you are leasing your buildings out, credentials in your assets. Another one is to improve your company's brand name recognition. So everybody's going green these days. And again, just as tenants want to be in green buildings, consumers as well are really putting the spotlight on companies on or who is green and who aren't. So companies that are doing GRESB and other ESG initiatives have stronger name brand recognitions than those who don't. And finally, last but not least, I did say that this was focusing on the financial benefits of GRESB, but we have to throw this one in here as well, which is the middle one, which is saving the planet. So obviously, all of these different ESG and sustainability factors that we implement from green building certificates to GRESB, these are all things that obviously make our company and funds more valuable. But at the same time, these are all things that are also saving the planet and making this planet more suitable for future generations. So it's really a win-win deal. Being able to help save the environment while making your company more profitable at the same time is really a no-brainer. Okay, that is it. So now I will pass the microphone over to Kwong, and he'll tell you a little bit more about the partnership that his company, Green Viet, has with GRESB and how they can assist in your GRESB reporting process as well as your green building certificate process. Over to you, Kwong.
Thank you, Trey. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kwang from Green Viet, and today I will share about just a little bit about our organizations very quickly, and then we'll show you how we have improved the GRESB score with green building certifications and with our solutions to benchmark or to improve the performance of the building itself. Just the key figures. Green Viet is 11 years now, 11 years old now, and we have a team of 30. And 35 out of 30 are professionals, architects and engineers, and we just focus on the green building consultancy only. Within Vietnam and some other countries in Southeast Asia, we have 150 certification completed. And we try to lead by example. So our office is Lotus Platinum certified, and we store the whole roof with the solar. So right now we have we reach net zero energy right now with the solar on the rooftop. We operate both in the industrial sectors and commercial sectors. So in the government and textile, we provide a service to most of the FDI and the local players in the market. We also provide a service to the warehouse sector, the RBF sector, and other industrial projects. We also operate on the high-rise, the commercial and residential centers, resort, hotel, and international school. So how the GRESB and green building relate to each other. So you can see on the left-hand side, that's the circle of the 5 basic green building categories. So you can see the energy saving over there, water saving over there, material and waste, indoor air quality, and the sustainable side. And on the left, on the right-hand side, you can see the components of the GRESB, ranging from the energy, water, green building certifications, and even the risk management. So later I will show you how the green building help improve the score in the GRESB. That Trey just shared. From the GRESB scoring, you can see the higher level certification level is, and then the higher percentage or higher point that you can achieve in the GRESB score. And also it can apply into the existing buildings. We mean the performance component. If you score higher on the green building certification, you can also score higher on the assessment components of the existing green building certifications. So here's our involvement. So you can see. So you see here on the left-hand side, the blue one is almost 70%, and the green one is 30%. And on the 70%, you can see the green building certification on the top, and also you can see other items such as energy, greenhouse gas emission, waste management, water saving also. So if your projects achieve the green building certification, you can also score on other items of the GRESB items underneath. So here's our new developments also. I think it's very much similar GRESB score, and that we can apply for both the new developments and the existing properties. So come to the most important one is the energy saving. Some of our projects here that you can see, and we apply different solutions to help the project achieve the energy saving from the solar, from the sustainable sites that we apply for the projects, or even for the passive design that we have in a creative way and in a less costly way, as you can see on the pictures behind. And during the development process, we will do the energy simulation to help the stakeholders, the project stakeholders, understand how much we can save from the operational cost and how much the upfront costs that we have to pay. So each of the components here, we will put in a table, and then the project owner or all the stakeholders of the project can understand very well, very clearly from the design stage, and then the whole team can make decisions which way to go in terms of the upfront costs and in terms of the performance later on during the operation time. We can also do the CFD or the wind simulation because in Vietnam, the tropical countries, the nature is very important for us to rely on. So during the concept design stage, we will do the CFD or the wind simulation just to help the project even more even better ventilated, and then it will help save the energy during the And then you can see here, both in the new development and in the existing property, the energy score for up to 40%. And in the lowest score here, you can see the energy items score maximum score up to 31 points. And of course, if you score higher on the Lotus here, and it will help you score higher on the GRESB. Lead is very similar. For the energy and atmosphere, lead can have the have the budget score up to 33 points, and again, it can have the project score on the energy, both in the existing and the new developments. So come to the water efficiency, is very similar to the energy one. Again, from the beginning of the process, we can also calculate how much water, especially for the indoor water and the irrigation system, that we can come up with how much water we have to use for the project and how much we can save for the operation. And again, for the water here, we can also score the points related between the GRESB and also the green building certifications. So here's just one example of the cooling tower where water use that we have our project even save more points and more water during the operation. Here the outdoor water use reduction in one of our LEED Platinum projects. So we integrate the firefighting tank into the pond here. So the stormwater we pour into all the stormwater into the pond here, and then the pond here can be used for the firefighting also. And the pond here can be used, the water from the pond here can be used for the irrigations also. For the indoor water use, we can save from the water features, the low flow water features. So by installing the low flow water features, we can help the project save up to maybe 40–45% of the potable water used for the everyday use. We can also have the water metering, and water metering is very basic requirements from the GBC, from even LEED or Lotus or other certification system. We also have this requirement. So by having this requirement, it help the project score points in the system certification. It helps score points in the GRESB system, and also it helps save the water during the operation time. So you can see here the water account for 5% and 7% in the GRESB, and the water saving for the Lotus score up to 13 points. Similarly to LEED, it has the score maximum 11 points here, and 5%, 7% on the GRESB. So waste documentation and reporting is similar. This is a very basic requirement from the certification system. And again, if you do something well here, and it will benefit the GRESB also in the scoring. Health and community is very important now for the social items of the ESG. So if we provide the facilities here, it will help score points on the certification, and also it will help score points on the GRESB. Tenants and community health, again, if we provide facility to our occupants, it will be better to retain the talents, and also will have improve the working environment for our staff, our person also. And that's it for today from our sharing. So right now I will turn my microphone to all of us, to Trey and Doug for the Q&A. Trey, you can do the moderator.
Certainly. Thank you so much for that very good presentation. So yes, everyone, as mentioned at the beginning, we will have a short Q&A session. I believe we have around just over 10 minutes. So if you do have any questions, please be sure to write those in the chat box. And we do already have several questions that were submitted during the registration process. So as you can see on the registration form that you all filled in to be here, there was a box where you could pre-submit a question. And we have a few that we will go ahead and get started with now. The first one is, what proactive steps should I take for my green building certification strategy, given new GRESB requirements on the expiration dates and validity periods? So that's a great question, actually. Whoever wrote this is on top of all the latest newest GRESB developments. So what we've actually started this year in 2024 is we've been putting a time frame to be able to be coupled with your green building certificate. So depending on how long you've had that green building certificate for, that will affect your score in GRESB. So if you've had a green building certificate for 1, 2, or 3 years, then you will still be allocated 100% of the points. However, if you've had that green building certificate for a much longer period, say 10, 11, 15 years, then you're actually going to be deducted a little bit from the max amount of points that you scored for the green building certificate section. The reason we're doing this is that at GRESB, we change our assessment every year. As you know, ESG and sustainability are evolving very quickly, and there's always new things that we need to consider and update the GRESB assessment for. So if you've had a green building certificate for 15 years, sustainability has changed tremendously since those days. Or get a new green building certificate to make sure that your building is up to date with. And this is a way at GRESB that we can encourage the industry to be able to do that, is by having this time frame coupled with your green building certificate. So if you have any more questions about this, feel free to email me directly, and I can share more detailed information specifically on the scoring requirement with green building certificates and the time frame. Another is, what are the constraints and difficulties of applying for question Kwong. So Kwong, do you address this?
Yeah. So thank you for the question. I think one of the biggest constraint for GRESB application here in Vietnam is GRESB is still quite new in the market. So I think in 2024, together we should do more articles and more presentations about GRESB and also the benefits of applying GRESB. So the stakeholders, all the stakeholders in the market, in the real estate market, can have a certain level of understanding what GRESB is and what kind of benefits the GRESB can bring to different types of stakeholders. And then I think more and more applicators, more and more real estate companies will be more confident to apply the GRESB.
I'll also add on that. So Vietnam is very much a growth market in terms of sustainability and ESG. If you look at some of the big markets here in Asia that have been doing this for a long time, that would be Japan, Australia. Also, we're seeing Singapore and Hong Kong becoming quite advanced with their GRESB reporting as well. But if we look at Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, it's still very much growing. So I think one of the difficulties would be is that this is a first-time process for many companies. So the first year of doing GRESB, it's always the hardest. To be honest, I don't think GRESB is that hard, especially if you have partner support. It makes things a lot easier. But after the rest of your first year, it gets easier and easier and easier. One of the reasons it gets easier is because you can actually copy and paste a large part of your assessment from year 1 to year 2, given that nothing has changed, or if we don't change any those questions from year 1 to year 2. And then focus on the areas that you need to make improvement. So instead of having to do all this first time reporting, upload all of your data, in year 2 and year 3, you can just focus on those areas that you need to improve upon. So that makes things a little bit easier. Actually, so we have seen that companies are able to increase their score on average year after year in GRESB. So companies that do GRESB for their first year, I think they average just below a 60%. But those who've been doing GRESB for more than 10 years, they're averaging around 85%. So that just shows that the more you do it, the better you get at it, the easier it gets, the higher score you get. Okay, so another question states, can you show the list of finance system and bank for support of the green approach? So I think the question is mostly asking, maybe talking about some of the big institutions that support green development in Vietnam. Doug, do you want to touch on this one and just talk about the landscape a bit more?
Yeah, I could say a little bit. I know that, well, World Bank has been here actively trying to support the domestic banks for about 10 years. And they worked with a handful of banks. Didn't get a huge amount of traction. But now I think since COP26, there's a new push. And so, and also because ESG, international ESG investors are looking at Vietnam more intently and wanting to get into the market and to invest. So there's a big push to have the bankability verifications established and kind of understood in Vietnam, and then to have the banks come on board. So we started working with ADB last year, at the end of last year, on a capacity building project, which is recurring. So right now we're working with 2 banks, 2 large banks in Vietnam, to just help them kind of gear their lending portfolio to include green investments. And they're very keen on it. I actually don't think I can give the names, not yet, but yeah, it's still an NDA thing, but there's definitely interest. So, and one of the banks is very large. So they're eager and they see this as a great opportunity. And now they really want to learn how to do it. So of course I'm sure they could do the research on their own, but it's a little bit faster if they bring in like the VGBC and ADB just to give them a quick tutorial on what's going on in the market. So in terms of soft loans, it's always hard to get that going. But I think in the market in general right now, there's been a scarcity of access to financing. And in some cases, green investment or green lending has kind of provided a revenue stream for projects where they couldn't find it. Quang, have you heard of any other banks that you know that you can say that are specifically doing green lending?
We know several international banks, and right now several local banks are just stepping in to provide the green loans. But again, I think it's hard to tell the names on the line. Yeah. I think if any developer or any project need a green loan, we can connect the banks that we know with the developers or the real estate companies, so they can work together on the green loan or even the sustainability lead loan.
Yeah, I can add really quick.
Our list.
Yeah, I can add really quick that we're going to be hosting or co-hosting a green finance symposium in March with ADB and Fitch, maybe with GRESB. So that hopefully will be another chance for us to kind of help encourage the market to keep going forward. Yeah, but it's inevitable. It's definitely inevitable.
Right.
Great. Thank you, Quang and Doug. Yeah, we're seeing that as well. Investors and banks are caring more and more about sustainability. I think the days where the first time you'd have a meeting with investors, the first question would say, show me your balance sheet. Now it's show me your sustainability report. Those are the days that we live in, where sustainability is just as important, in some instances even more important than profitability. But you do see them go hand in hand, so there is a correlation. Another question, I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more, so hopefully I can get to all of the pre-submitted questions. But one of them is, Can you share more info about the cost for using these items and the applicability of these items in the Vietnam market? So I think the question is asking a little bit about cost and price. I think Doug touched a little bit about the pricing for Lotus in his presentation, but for GRESB, I'm happy to talk about price. It's very simple. So if you do GRESB for 1 year, it's a fee of 7,200 euro. If you do sign up to GRESB for a 3-year term, it's 6,000 euros per annum. So you get a bit of a discount if you do commit to GRESB for 3 years. Do you want to touch a little bit about pricing? I know that might be confidential, or maybe in Quang's case, it might depend on the size of the portfolio or the type of assets involved. But I'll pass it over to you if you want to have any comments on pricing or fee structures as well.
Regardless the size of the company and the size of portfolio, your fee is still 7,000 something, right?
No, for GRESB, it doesn't matter the portfolio, doesn't matter how many assets. It's a flat fee at GRESB, either the 1-year term or the 3-year term.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have one more question. So this one says, can you show a draft schedule, meeting, design, material, construction, review and inspection, issue certification? So I'll pass this over to Quang and Doug. Quang and Doug, any feedback for this particular question?
I had a bit of a timeline up there before on my my slides. Am I able to go back to that?
No, I think
it falls in line with the normal project timeline. So it's simultaneous, it's run in parallel. So like while the project is going through design, then the green consultants will give input. So that's what Green Viet would do, and try and make sure that everything is optimized within the budget. And then that information is submitted to the certification organization, ideally the national certification organization, and then they'll give the feedback. Our turnaround time, we say up to 8 weeks, but typically 2 to 3 weeks we give feedback during the design phase, and then again that has to happen again after construction is finished, so another 2 to 3 weeks. So we try not to slow down the construction process for, with people waiting for the feedback on the design phase and the finished construction phase. But so there could be a little delay. Quang, is there a way to fill that waiting time with something useful to do?
We try, as a green building consultant, we try our best to speed up the process. The way we do is we try to advance the commissioning process for the green building features, so that we can complete the green building features and testing, commissioning all before it can step into the defects of other items. So by doing that, we can advance the process, and then the certification can come at the time of the grand opening also. So it will help the project and also the developer to do the marketing public release also at the time of completion.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you so much. So I think we just got out of time. So unfortunately, there are a few questions, but we do have a hard stop. So that will be it for today's presentation. So thank you all so much for joining. It was a pleasure to be able to host this along with Quang and Doug. And I trust that all of you were able to take away some valuable insights. So again, if you have any questions for any of us, feel free to send us an email. And we will be sending out an email later to all the attendees today with more information on how to do that. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.